This morning we have Tega Supreme as always at Tega Supreme. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning. Good
You
morning.
did not.
No.
Good morning, Lagos.
Thank you, Tega.
And she gives such a cheery good morning as
Yes.
well.
Yes. And good morning to you, Brutalistix.
Good morning.
Good morning. After my birthday, I decided to be my best behavior.
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, God. I was not surprised. I thought I didn't hear properly. I looked again like,
Yeah.
oh, that didn't sound right.
Mhm.
We hope it to be a long-lasting thing, but we're not holding
I
our
doubt
breath.
Anyway, Lagos, send us messages through WhatsApp to 080944400981. If you've been following the matches and all the trends, please let us know your thoughts on them. Also on Twitter, like we said, hashtag is LockerRoom981. On YouTube, we're streaming live. Our first story is about Lowry. Now, Kawhi Leonard was sensational Thursday nights. Pascal Siakam was pretty cool too, but the rest of the Toronto Raptors, not so much. According to statements quoted to Lowry, Lowry says, "We've got to help him. I was literally saying it during the game. We have to help him. He's doing everything he can possibly do offensively and defensively to win games, and myself, I'm not helping him enough. I'm not putting it on nobody else but me," he said. Being unselfish, and we have to be more selfish, Lowry said. We have to help Kawhi and Pascal and score more and a little bit more assertive. We're just being we're passive, he said. We're just too passive to a fault.
Yes, they're too passive to a fault. But here's what was interesting about this. Kalari, I think last night he shot 2 of 8. Sorry, 2 of 10 shots. That's Kalari. That's the guy that's supposed to lift the Raptors finally into the NBA finals and maybe even the championship. But I think once that there was that breakup between himself and Raptors sold DeRozan to the San Antonio Spurs, Kawhi was brought in. It's just not the same chemistry between those two. And in as much as Kawhi is a fantastic player, does his job on both ends of the court, there's just something off. There's a way that Lowry will play the game so badly, and DeRozan doesn't need to say much for him to change in the second half.
Okay.
Lowry did not have that, doesn't have that with Kawhi Leonard. So it's a totally different kind of relationship, and therefore the results are a bit mixed. The Raptors, for me, they're always chokers, so I'm not really surprised that they choked yesterday, but when you are the name in the area, when you are the name in the arena, just think if it were in Cleveland and Kalari is LeBron in Cleveland, and you can imagine putting off such a horrible performance in front of the crowd, and then the stranger that just came in visiting, because Kawhi Leonard really doesn't have any sentiments. He's not attached to this town. In fact, I've not seen anybody in this life that is close to Kawhi Leonard. He doesn't have any friends, and no friends has him. He's with everybody and he's with nobody. So I mean, it's understandable sometimes when he behaves the way he behaves. But for you, that you are connected to this city, this is your town, this is your city, and you're not repping your town and your city, it's okay for you to give sound bites after the game that you've lost. But it would have been more important for you to put those points on the board. Yeah.
I see.
All right, let's go
I
from basketball to the Super Eagles. The news again, and they said to play Zimbabwe and Senegal Africa Cup warm-ups. Nigeria's Super Eagles will face Zimbabwe and Senegal in friendlies ahead of this year's Africa Cup of Nations. The president of the Nigerian Football Federation said this on Wednesday actually. Amaju Melvin Pinnick said there cannot possibly be a better way to get into the AFCON spirit than playing the number 1 ranked team in Africa just before the finals begin.
So yeah, these are 2 pretty good friendly games to have in terms of preparation. I mean, in terms of African opposition, they don't get more African than Zimbabwe and Senegal. Depending on how you look at it, these are 2 countries on different spectrums of the African football scale. The Zimbabweans, in their own rights, they're doing well, but I mean they're doing well for Zimbabwe, and they're one end of the spectrum. And of course you have the high end, which is Senegal with the Sadio Manes of this world and the like. So you have 2 good skills where you're able to then assess the ability and the preparation of the team for the main tournament. I think crucially, the match against Zimbabwe, they're working to make sure that that is played as part of their camping in Nigeria.
Okay.
So it gives, and I understand that General Ross really been passionate about having that opportunity for Nigerians to see the Super Eagles before they head out to their
That's
main
good.
camping thing. So that's all sorts of good in that regard. Crucially, it will also be a chance for us to see what his idea of how the team is going to play, what combinations are, and if anything has changed from his very safe approach during the World Cup, and generally, I mean, just his general cautious approach to football. Hopefully, we will learn a thing or two that may offer hope for certain people and may not inspire others to believe that Nigeria has a chance to do this. But it's good preparation. Credit must go to the Football Federation for having made considerable effort investing in adequate preparation of all the national teams, especially this year, but even going back to the preparations for the World Cup. Kudos to them.
All right. Now, track and field's governing body will immediately apply its testosterone regulations to the 1,500 meters. President Sebastian Coe said this on Thursday, that was yesterday, ignoring advice from the Court of Arbitration for Sports. The CAS has said on Wednesday that there was not enough evidence to show Caster Semenya and other female athletes with naturally high testosterone level had a significant advantage in the event. But in a caveat to the decision, the Switzerland-based court specifically said there was a paucity of evidence to apply the rules to the 1,500 meter and 1 mile races. The CAS asked the IAAF to delay the rules in those events until it provides more evidence. When asked a day later at a news conference in Doha, Qatar, if the IAAF would heed that advice from Sports Highest Court, Cole simply said no.
Okay, so here is what it is. Let's start the story from beginning. So the IAAF made a ruling that if you are a DSC athlete, basically an athlete with
high testosterone levels,
with different sex development. That's what it is.
Yes.
It happens in men and it happens in women, but the case generally now is for women. If you are a DSC athlete, there are certain rules that they will now apply to you if you are going to compete. Yes. So that's what I said, differences in sex development. So for some women, they have a high, abnormally high level of testosterone, and that sometimes as high as the men. And so what that means is that they may have better muscle development if they are boxers or weightlifters, which means that they're going to have some advantage as compared to other women. Yes. And also the testosterone helps with stamina, which is why they're targeting certain races from the 800 meters, 1,500. Yes. Now, what's tricky here that 5,000 meters is not involved. And I don't know why, because it also affects stamina. So why? But they're targeting particular races, and so because of they've had cases like this before against an Indian athlete. She's a sprinter. She's won in Asia. She hasn't really won on the world stage. So I don't see the advantage that they're talking about. But she was one of those that was picked up. She won her case in court, and she's allowed to compete with women. But here's the thing: because of the way Sebastian Coe in particular has gone about this thing, I feel it is targeted at Caster Semenya specifically. There's Francine from Burundi, there's Wambui from Kenya. Those are women I can, off the top of my head, remember because I've met them. I know their cases very well, that have high level of testosterone but do not win as much. And so
because somebody's performing better, you not
so they just pick on her. Here's what is tricky. Michael Phelps also had this issue when they said he didn't produce enough lactic acid, so maybe that's why he was a little faster than the other swimmers.
I remember
that. Nobody ever did any ban on him. Usain Bolt has something in his system that makes him run faster. But naturally producing.
Well, who's asking?
Naturally producing, discovered by the IAAF when they tested him. But nobody did anything about it. They're like, And so, And so testosterone is the testosterone level, according to the scientific report, gives the women with higher level of testosterone a 3% performance advantage, according to them, over the other athletes a 3% advantage. This is the Caster Semenya that ran 1,500 meters and came third. So I'm saying, if you want it seems for me it's more political than biological. And so the CAS has come out to say that, look, we know that, so IAAF made that ruling. Caster Semenya and her team took them to court, and CAS now stood with the IAAF. They most generally stand with the body. But they also said that for this Doha race that is happening this weekend, that there's for the 800 meters, let's see some more tests, because we've heard from both sides of the device and it's not conclusive that there's an advantage. But you can apply the rules for 1,500 meters and 1 mile races. Unfortunately, Sebastian Coe is like, no, since you have already said yes, that you have stood with us, you're going to stay with us all the way. And so that's where there's a problem. But CAS and IAAF have come out to say, and here's why I think it's going to be a hard fight. CAS and IAAF have come out to say, yes, our ruling is discriminatory, but we don't care, because we think it's necessary. Like, they've accepted it that we are discriminating. But
we're the governing body.
Call the police.
Who are you?
Call the police. So I think Sebastian Coe is particularly, and because Caster Semenya is already registered for the 800 meters, and she hasn't taken off her name, even if she had hinted at retiring. But what he's saying that is from this race that he's going to start with the 800 meters, regardless of what CAS says. Yes. I want to hear what CAS will say.
I don't think she should withdraw, but we are smooth though. We'll be back after this.
I just think it's quite unfair.
She will have to, because the bodies are against her, and again, she's African. Sorry, nothing she can do.
Honestly, that's one of her biggest.
Nothing. She's African. She can't do.
It goes deep.
She can't do deep. It's political.
It's political. That's why I totally agree with what you say. It's political. If this was a white person, even her country would even allow them to get this far.
Do you understand? Like the American woman that she died and they found out she had. So Caster Semenya has testes, but she also has wounds. She also has, so she produces, But this woman had fully developed penis. Like, she just had ovaries, and then she had. Nobody knew till she died. Like, no, they suspected that, like, she's a man. The white girl put her long hair.
Quickly, nothing happened.
Nothing happened. Then she died.
Then
the person that did the autopsy, stupid person. Now
revealed details from autopsy report. Yes, now
because he wasn't supposed to. You're not supposed to.
Got the details.
I'm saying, how could the person have done that?
It's to get money now. They'll sell the 500,000. What are you talking about?
It's like
Anna Hammer died.
Picture of
no, it wasn't a mistake. It was deliberate. He was like, all of you been guessing if she's a man or a woman.
This is it. I've got the picture.
So he sold the pictures to.
But that's very wicked.
He just did not take credit for it. Will I say I'm taking? I'll just collect my $500,000 sneakily and go to Ghana and live a good life. It was crazy. So I don't think she'll win. She's also run the 5,000 meters, which is not one of the races involved. She's won it, but she doesn't want to do 5,000 meters. She absolutely doesn't.
That's in the pen. I literally see people.
Are you this quiet normally?
No, he's angry on Caster's behalf. It's really paining him.
I see people saying this in traffic and I laugh. They wait for this part.
Yeah, I always wait for this part too.
The power of good ads.
No story, no restriction. Recharge and dial *234# to enjoy this offer. Airtel, the smartphone network. A wise man once said, the more you sleep, the further away you get from your dreams.
Caster Semenya's handle is Caster 800 meters. As in, kill yourself and die.
It's so sad.
Your money should never get a wink of sleep. It should always be hard at work, making more money.
If we're not a discriminatory case, then of course, but
no, it looks very targeted. Because if it's about stamina, then 5,000 meters should be involved. I mean, heck, just all the races. Yeah. I understand not including sprints because it's not really endurance
stretch,
as
yeah.
much as it
My
is.
own thing is, can you tell me that this thing, that this testosterone, whether it has been it's a product of either medical or pharmaceutical engineering
No, it's not.
to create this advantage that you're
Exactly.
talking
There's no
about?
scientific
If you answer
backing for
that
that.
in the negative,
Negative,
then
yeah,
please
that-
explain
What's the
to me
point? Why are you questioning her
you are
biological
harassing
makeup?
her.
Lawyer.
So she should go and enter back in the woman.
She should
come out
know. She
again
should
and-
take
Especially when
drugs.
you've also
suppress it,
mentioned
imagine.
that
Please, let's
Usain
go back
Bolt
on.
has something.
We're
upon
live,
that.
studio. Mics are up. You're listening to The Locker Room, where we share sports stories here on Smooth Breakfast with Ayo.
And Valentine.
And we're joined as always by Brutalistix and Tega Supreme. Good morning again.
Good morning again.
All right, we'll go on to our next story. We spoke about Casa Semenya, and I mean, quite a healthy debate. If you want to see that, go onto YouTube. We're streaming live, and you see what goes on behind the scene, even during the break. Jurgen Klopp says the Reds produced best. So Liverpool manager Klopp says his side produced their best Champions League away performance for 2 seasons in Barcelona, despite losing 3-0. I don't know if we can play much better, said Klopp. I think it was the best away game in the Champions League, not only this year, last year included.
Look, we were here when we talked about for Barcelona that that game is going to be really about maybe 2 individuals, the goalkeeper Ter Stegen and Lionel Messi. And guess what? Those 2 made the difference. Look, to a very large extent, Liverpool, they were correct. They bossed possession and stuff like that. I think a part of me feels that Ernesto Valverde decided to concede possession and play these guys on the counter attack. That was what he took out. He didn't play Artomelo in midfield, so clearly there was not to contest possession in the midfield. He played Arturo Vidal.
Oh, that was a genius idea.
And that paid off in leaps and bounds. That guy's was everywhere and then some, tackling, fighting, just creating all sorts of nuances. But really, it was about how efficient Barcelona were on the counter attack. And literally, even before the first goal, you could see the game plan. Win the ball when you can. And then they just try to exploit Liverpool's right back position. And it was constant. It was building. And I think what surprised me was that on the field and off the bench, nobody picked up on this plan that you could see it developing, where they were going to attack through Jordi Alba, and then they did nothing. And then the defense for the first goal, literally static. Virgil van Dijk, I believe, could and should have done better.
No, he didn't see Suarez. No, Suarez was invisible.
In tracking Suarez's run. But overall, yes, look, possession, you can have possession for all the world. If you don't convert the possession into goals, it means nothing. And that was the end game. Now, going into the second leg, 3-0, for some, it's a big advantage. Note, you're playing Liverpool. Note, you're playing them at Anfield.
True.
And if Barcelona perhaps do not address certain things going into that second leg, 3-0 can easily be whittled down when you're playing at Anfield. Note, they have to do a better job dealing with Mo Salah. They need to work better. Roberto Firmino did not play that first leg. So they're going to have 3 different problems to deal with in the second leg. They need to probably be a little bit better defensively. Yes, they got a clean sheet, but one would argue that clean sheet was not really a function of them being as defensively solid as they would like. They can't give Liverpool the kind of position that they had at the Nou Camp at Anfield. That will hurt them classically. So it's going to be a different game plan. The counter-attacking thing worked in the first leg. I fear that it will not work this time around, and they have to work around that. On the face of it, it looks like Barcelona has a foot in the final. Okay. But until those 90 minutes are up, we can't
really predict. All right, messages here. Cruz says now, so IAAF has started behaving like SARS. Very horrible. And Big T says, Amaya, I don't get this whole brouhaha. If you have a womb, you're a woman. If you do not, you're a man. There's no in between, he thinks. Has she gained any advantage with higher testosterone? She loses loads of races too.
Exactly.
And
Exactly.
Zizi Classic says, my condolences to all English fans. I guess Liverpool's worst mistake that night was wearing the white jersey to Camp Nou, which makes Barcelona to mistake them for Real Madrid.
Ah, wow. And then hello locker room. This one's from Phil. It says, suffice to say that Messi is absolutely incredible. 600 goals and still counting. Honestly, I gave him a little chance going into Liverpool match, but he surprised me. Klopp said prior to the match that when Messi said he wanted to bring the Champions League back to Barcelona, it was like a suicide mission. I hope Barca finishes the job in England and eventually wins the trophy. Ladies and gentlemen, hail the GOAT, the greatest of all time, for a statistic to really set in. It took him 14 years to achieve, while it took Cristiano Ronaldo about 17 years. Still, I'll say this, Cristiano Ronaldo works harder than Messi.
Whatever,
Argue
Messi
with your
is the
chair.
GOAT.
Still. Anyway, Leicester boss Rodgers needs no extra incentive to beat Manchester City, and here's how. Leicester City manager Brendan Rodgers says he has no extra motivation to do his former club Liverpool a favor in the Premier League title race when he side Manchester City with his side, when the side actually faced Manchester City on Monday. In his words, he says, I'm employed by Leicester. My focus is on Leicester City. There's no comparison, really. He told a news conference yesterday, and he continues, it's exciting to be involved, but my thoughts are solely with Leicester and doing what we can to get the result.
Yes, this story has come about because of the way the Premier League is shaping in the running to the end of the Premier League. And so Liverpool traveled to Newcastle on Saturday, and Leicester faced Manchester City. And it looks like the weekend that either one of these teams can drop points. And because he's Brendan Rodgers is a former Liverpool boss, everybody's saying you have to do Liverpool a favor and get this win. Or they think that he also believes that he will do Liverpool a favor. I'm like, they fired you. You might as well.
And the way they fired you,
The way they fired you, guy, you might as well just throw the match. Don't do that. Tega didn't tell you that. Don't do that. But that's not but that's not good incentive enough, if you ask me. He should win it for Leicester's sake, because Leicester is also contesting for the other side of Europe. And they still have maybe not a shouting chance, but a whispering chance to get in there and getting in on Wolves and Watford. Those are teams that are far ahead of them for the Euro battle. And so based on that, that's why they should fight for those 3 points. Other than that, if you are going to go and fight for Liverpool that abandoned you, you will be shot twice. You won't even be allowed to celebrate in the road parade. That's how bad it will be. But speaking of incentives, you too do not need any extra incentives to go and download the Kwese iFlix so that you can watch your match for your
Free.
EPL match for free. You can watch it when you're walking on the road. You can watch it at a wedding. I'm going to a wedding today, and that's where I'll be watching
Wow.
my EPL.
So that's what you do. No, on the side of the road.
On the side of the road.
No,
you don't walk out.
Please don't walk out. Anyway, we don't even have sidewalk in Nigeria. Don't walk and watch it. Just watch it on the bus.
That's how we do.
Watch it on the bus and just watch your EPL matches for free on Kwesi TV. Download the Kwesi iFlix on your smartphones and enjoy. It has been brought to you courtesy Coca-Cola, the official soft drink sponsors of the EPL.
Dozie on WhatsApp says, good morning to you all. My crystal ball says a miracle will happen at Anfield. I'm wondering if the glass of the crystal ball is broken to show me this. Because Oga Messi will show no Messi. Chai, club. Not only you waka come, nearly every time. Gang, pressing part 2 loading. Interesting. All right, we'll take a break. We'll be back with more stories.
How many minutes? We took only 2 stories. I mean, one.
No, we did
2 stories, literally.
two stories.
I'll come back. Finish stories.
So we just add the Europa League and Unai Emery and Chelsea. You read the Unai Emery story, but just I totally forgot.
Excuse me. No, I think the funniest part watching that Liverpool Barcelona game for me was before the game he said they had no plan to mark Messi. Yet every time Messi had the ball, it's like they were having annual general meeting around.
It made sense to
4,
mark that guy.
5.
That guy played. Look, that guy played 10 minutes at most in that game.
5.
Messi for the rest of the game he was just walking around. Messi, mark something. Messi, see ball there. Shoot, can you help close down that guy?
Yeah.
Messi, I saw that time that Liverpool was having pressure, was mounting pressure. Messi was just walking around. When he sees like balls coming, he'll jog. Then the ball go back. Then like, 10 minutes and he scored 2 goals. Now mark him. If he looks at the ball,
Look at him.
Mark him.
But as they mark up, no, I mean, but my point is like, okay,
I know what you
you
mean.
now had 5 people around him, leaving so many other people to
I know
run
what you
and
mean.
follow.
Look, the truth of the matter is, they also understood that Coutinho was never going to have a good day, and Coutinho played it well. The only other person that could have made the passes was Sergio Busquets, but Sergio Busquets was busy trying to break up their play. So, marking Messi was, for me, wasn't a bad idea. It wasn't, but it's usually there's no other way to do it.
Figure 5 people.
Well, when Van Dijk, they said Van Dijk should mark Messi, he called for help.
I'm like 5 people.
Where else you help him out? The guy took. Can you remember when the guy took the ball, took out Robertson? I've forgotten the second person he took out. Then he was about to take out that person. I was like, dude, mash his leg. Collect a yellow card and mash the guy's leg. Cannot be hard. Messi can never dribble me in this. Like I will match him. They'll as they're giving me red card, they'll be stretchering him off. That's how my mission will be complete. We'll walk off together. I'll come back in the next game. You will not. Is that simple? Messi will not play ball. Oh, yeah, we're back.
World-class music. World-class station.
There's nothing like smooth. This is no ordinary love.
Studio is live. We love that you listen, and now we're talking sports. We respect your messages. We see them on WhatsApp about more stories.
All right, we have this one here. Now, Emery insists Arsenal's Europa League hopes 50-50 despite semi-final lead over Valencia. Now, Emery insisted Arsenal's Europa League was still at 50-50 despite taking a 3-1 first leg lead. He said, my plan for the second leg is to make sure we continue to be very difficult to play against. It's 50-50. Maybe the second leg will be different, but I consider it to be 50-50 at the moment.
He's right, and there are 3 reasons. First, they gave away a crucial away goal. Secondly, they again defended quite shockingly, especially in the early parts of the game. And I feel like this is really not necessarily a tactical issue now. You can see loads of just purely poor individual errors in judgment. And there's a point where Maitland-Niles was trying to back pass. Look, can you head the ball if you're good? I mean, he literally was about to prostrate to greet to head that ball, and he almost created a problem. So a lot of individual errors. And then thirdly, Arsenal, bar their performance against Watford away from home and the Napoli performance, tend to be quite abominable on the road. And the second leg is away from home. So those 3 ingredients, when you put them all together, they make this still 50-50. They also could have been more clinical. That game could have probably ended, let's say, 4-2, 4-3, because very early on, the away team had chances to go ahead by about 2-3 goals. Like I said, was a bit wasteful in some chances and all of that. So when you put all of that in the pot, yes, you're correct, it's 50-50. The same thing can be said about the Chelsea game against Eintracht Frankfurt. They got a crucial away goal away. Again, not perform. I think the story of that game was having Eden Hazard on the bench. Sarri said he wanted to give him rest. Excuse me, this guy is likely to leave at the end of the season. You have 2 games left. One of these gives you this game gives you a chance to get yourself into the final, and you're putting effectively your best player on the bench. Something's not right about that. All in all, we go again, I think, next week, and then we'll see how these play out. Everyone's 50-50 at the moment.
All right, very quickly, we have no time really for more stories. But
We must announce Iker Casillas is better now.
Okay.
Yes.
Oh, yeah, I saw a
so
picture of him and he looked really good.
We're glad. Emma from Akoka says Lionel Messi, Lord of Nou Camp, goat of football, king in Catalonia, and destroyer of the Reds. I bend the knee. IAAF should look into Messi's case too. He's alien, which gives him an unfair advantage over the humans. It's only fair we won Valencia. After all, they gave us Mustafi. We needed some compensation.
And Victor from Agbaya says, Tega, I'm not understanding you again. You said Liverpool is the better team and Klopp is better of the two coaches. Just wondering why a better Liverpool will concede 3 goals like Man U did this season and a certain Chelsea last season. Let's wait till we turn leg match.
Yes, there's a certain guy called Messi. Since we are all settling certain things,
And we're certainly going to be back at the top of the hour, 9 o'clock for Lagos Talks 91, because it's a feel-good Friday and we expect and anticipating the light-hearted conversation. But special thanks to you, Tega. Catch out at Tega Supreme on Twitter, at Analysts International, and the big uncle himself, Brutalistix.
bro,
You only
bro.
had one show and you have not already considered.
We'll be back.